Thresh abilities are insanely powerful each on their own, but strung into a combo, their power increases tenfold or more. And with how versatile they can be with their multitude of applications, and the high skill ceilings and high cooldowns, exactly how a Thresh uses these abilities can determine the skill of that player. With no more delays, here's every Thresh combo I could think of, from the most common to the stupidest, most niche things you've ever seen, and I hope you find a time and place to use them. Oh, but one more thing. There is a secret Thresh combo that will reveal near the end that you can only do once you've mastered the champion. It's incredibly important if you're going to main Thresh, so do stick around for that. Anyway, here we go. First up, QQE. This is your bread and butter engage combo. You dash to your enemy with a hook and flay them towards your team, or wherever you like. It doesn't need much explanation really. Next, Q to a minion, QE. Dashing to an enemy isn't always easy, especially at distance or when they're hiding behind minions, but predicting and hooking a minion is easy. Predicting and hooking a minion is easier, so you can instead dash to one near your target, then hit the flay, or whatever else you intended to hit them with. Q, then E, towards yourself. Instead of dashing to the enemy, you can flay at the tip of your range to get a third pull towards yourself after your 2 Q pulls. This means you don't have to dash into the enemy, so you can perform this without compromising your position. Great if you're squishy, low health, or just don't want to deal with being up close and personal. Q, then E, away. Instead of flaying towards yourself, flaying away instead, during or after the hook, gives distance, almost negating one of your pulls. This still gets a long CC chain, great for crowd control duration while peeling an ally, or even while peeling yourself. Next up, Q, Q, R, E. Dashing in with a Thresh hook gets you in position to box as many opponents as possible, causing large-scale disruption. The flay afterwards gets anyone who hasn't touched the box wall yet into the box. Next up, Q, Q, E, R. Using flay during travel time cuts down on cast time immobility, meaning it's easier for you to move, reposition, escape, or even press your attack after dropping the box. This lowers the total amount of CC you'll be able to do, but can be worth it in niche situations. Instead, flaying at the end of the dash for optimal CC means you're more likely to hit a desired target with the box than just casting it first, but it gives all targets not hit by the flay more time to outmaneuver it. Q, R, E, auto attack. The highest damage Thresh combo, guaranteeing the box damage along with its 100% AP ratio on a target hit by your hook. Extreme tenacity or cleanses give opponents the ability to escape it, and it has a much lower total CC duration, but it has the potential to upgrade your stuns and slows into a kill instead. So it tends to be worth it outside of mandatory peeling duties. Usable to clutch kills or burst enemies as a support in some situations, but for those along the AP Thresh hype train, this is your bread and butter combo.
Nice, you could be good.
Q, R, flash, then E. In close quarter combat situations, a hook can successfully pull into the box, but due to Thresh's lowered movement speed while dragging the opponent, flash is often necessary to get the second pull in the direction you want. This is possible, but very difficult. Often you'll need a flay to strike the box wall with your target. Q, and then instantly E. At close range, this aims to flay the opponent towards yourself while the hook is in the air. This massively reduces total CC, but aims to surprise the opponents looking to dodge at the usual hook timing. This also bursts a bit faster, especially for AP Thresh enjoyers. This is naturally slower than just flaying enemies, and allows enemies to escape flay range in the first place, so getting into close range without Q, usually flash, or Rocketbelt, can help this out. Performing this at long range can supposedly disguise your hook direction, but maybe because of my Thresh main of over 10 years, I just don't see it. Maybe this gets newer players, but in any case, I have a better way to disguise your hook directions in my Overexplain of Thresh's Q. Either way, it massively cripples your CC duration, so it better be used in the correct, very niche situation. Q, then as quickly as possible Q again, and auto attack. Thresh's Q locks Thresh out of auto attacking, but casting it again to dash as quickly as possible will also allow you to auto attack again as fast as possible. However, this doesn't change the stun duration on the opponent, allowing you to get a free auto attack, which even gets a little damage charge up time while hooking. If you're building attack speed, you know, for reasons, then you can squeeze in even more free DPS. Auto attack, Q, E, then auto attack. This kiting combo allows you to charge between attacks while stunning the opponent for higher AD damage. Its usefulness directly scales with your AD, but in all situations regardless, just attacking quickly does more DPS than allowing it to charge up. This is more for the damage the opponent isn't doing to you, rather than the damage increase you get. Q, W, Q. A support classic. Throwing out a lantern only once the hook has landed or thrown during the travel of a confident hook can bring junglers and other teammates swiftly into fights, giving gap closers to even immobile juggernauts. Though the timing is quite tight, using your Q dash while your ally is taking the lantern can lead to a tremendous dash distance. Inversely, you can allow an ally to escape with you to a nearby jungle camp. Next, we have Q Flash. In this clip, Thresh begins the cast time of his hook, then flashes to extend the distance and surprise his opponent. Why does no one do this? Because you can't. This was patched out a long time ago. Pyke is still allowed to do this because Riot loves him more than they love us. That being said, flashing after casting Q still has a purpose that will come up in a future combo. Hold tight. Q, missing it, and then W. This is the kind of shit you think of when you've played too much Yoshi on Tekken. Extremely niche, but missing a fresh hook can often invite an enemy to engage. Using this to bait an enemy while your jungler or other roamer lies in wait can leave your opponents with few options to escape. You can also miss your Q and then hit an E. This is to bait and engage with an enemy that thinks they're safe when your Q is down. Normally, just trying to hit the Q is better than missing on purpose, and fighting with an ability down is kinda bad, but this is particularly handy against Mel, as this can often bait her W reflectability. This isn't as important against Yasuo or Samira since they can destroy projectiles, and Thresh's auto attacks are not projectiles. Continuing this train of weirdness, we have Recall into Q. Using a recall awakens some primal instinct in your enemies to try and stop your recall. While baiting actual engages to then easily land hooks is one thing, just recalling for a second to freak someone out, cause an instinctual response, and then throw out your Q using this can make enemies feel extremely readable if you're experienced in a bit of tomfoolery. I do indeed main Yoshimitsu on Tekken. How could you tell? To go even further beyond, we are now going AFK into Q. In a similar vein, pretending to go AFK or disconnect makes enemies go ravenous for a free kill. This makes predicting rather easy and can be hilarious with a gank lying in wait. Next up, we have W into Q. While any Thresh can throw a lantern back to a jungler before throwing a hook, particularly useful if that jungler has a more reliable CC for you to hook after, a slightly sillier Thresh play is to fake the hook. It's so unreliable and too galaxy brain for anyone involved, but since this is over-explaining, I'll add it anyway. Mimicking the cast time with a recall animation, stop command, or emote before throwing a lantern at an enemy can cause a scare response, prompting jukes. Predicting ahead of this to line up a hook is probably the best Thresh play ever, if it ever happens. Another WQ combo involves attempting to alter the opponent's path with the lantern ahead of throwing a hook. This can inversely work with a QW combo with a fast throw, and with the lantern's tiny collision radius, this is once again highly impractical but hilarious in theory. Next, W, Flash, Flay. Allies travelling to you via lantern will follow you all the distance you've travelled since their journey begins. So dashing with Flash can not only cover more distance for your companion, but also work simultaneously as a surprise engage on an enemy using Flay. It takes some forethought and planning as it can be quite fast in its execution, but more often than not, a gank like this will see results. WW. Huh, what do you reckon this is? Woodrow Wilson? Willy Wonka?
Walter White.
For your information, you need 184 ability haste to have 2 lanterns up at once, though that'd just be for a fraction of a second and is practically impossible to do in a real game. If you could do this though, you'd be able to bring multiple allies at one time, though I doubt the first would be patient enough to wait for the second lantern cooldown. The most common places for this would be Earth with its 300 ability haste baseline buff, but this is a rotation game mode, and Arena where you only have 1 ally. I just wanted to make the Breaking Bad joke, to be honest with you. Slightly more practical, we have W to block someone, and then auto attack. When chasing an enemy on 1 HP, sometimes a tiny disruption to their movement could be enough to land 1 more auto. So throwing a lantern in front of them could actually do the trick. You can technically do this for Flay as well for an engage rather than a last hit. Moving on to our Flay relevant combos, we have auto attack, auto attack, auto attack. This is how you kill people as AD Thresh. Next, E, then Q. The slow of Flay, whether away or towards, though often better cast towards yourself from the edge of the range, helps land follow-up hooks for a good chain of CC, and is typically the better way to go so long as you are able to get close enough to use Flay in the first place. Next, E into R. Flaying towards yourself to trap someone in the box works, but is flashable after. Flaying away at close range or flaying towards at max range will land them close enough to hit a box wall. Flaying away at max range and boxing is a full escape maneuver, peeling and then blocking them off. If you wanted even more overexplaining specifically about Thresh's box, I have done that. EW. Similar to hooking first before lanterning, this combo aims to confirm the hit of Flay before bringing a friend along for the ride. Auto, E, auto. This gets a cheeky Flay in between auto attacks for extra damage, typically flaying towards yourself for the speed of it, but you can also flay away to peel an enemy off. This is also Thresh's fastest and probably most reliable way to use Electrocute if you're using it. Moving on, we have R into Q. Starting a Thresh combo with R is a little uncommon, but you can deploy it as a defensive wall when enemies are looking to engage, you're looking to escape, or even just after flashing into the enemy. Whichever reason you're leading with the box, it's a huge slow that allows you to easily throw a hook at the first slowed target, and even enemies who took only a half slow from the secondary box walls are easy hits. R into E. Sometimes leading with R can lead to insane CC chains and control over the opposition. Using E to force a second box hit after the 1 second delay between wall breaks creates a momentous chain of slows that means that opponent probably isn't going anywhere. R into E into Q. Using E and Q both after R is greedy to say the least, but can be an easily chainable onslaught of CC. Like the opposite of Q-E-R, this one starts at basically point blank range, but emphasizes CC duration thanks to the box slows, making landing the E and Q much simpler. Similarly, we have RQE. The opposite is much the same, though you'll be trying to land your second box wall hit with Q instead, sometimes requiring a flash to get the second pull if needed. A third pull being needed in Flay reduces your potential CC length, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Which order you choose when leading with R is more situational than not, so choosing in the moment which ability gets your desired CC or damage result is more important. Next, R into W. This is practically the same intended effect as E into W, just confirming the catch on someone before throwing a lantern to a hidden ally to get the element of surprise. That might be it for all of Thresh's main abilities, but because this is over-explaining, what about non-Thresh abilities? Hextech Rocketbelt into E. Hextech Rocketbelt is an uncommon item on Thresh, to say the least, but it is a dash nonetheless. If Flash Flay can be a powerful combo, then so can Rocketbelt Flay. The instant cast time of flaying towards yourself together with the sudden distance you cover with Rocketbelt can definitely make some catches. Hextech Rocketbelt into Q. A Rocketbelt hook is okay, but due to the cast time of Rocketbelt, it's not quite as clean as a flash hook, and with something as reactable as a Thresh hook, it might not be quite as much of a game changer as one might imagine. That being said, covering distance with Rocketbelt is still always an upside compared to just walking, and can assist you in freaking your opponents out about a hook that you're intentionally delaying. Shurelya's into E or R. Shurelya's burst of movement speed is always a good engage tool, but can be used well with the instant cast time of Flay. While a lot of players might worry about and try to shake off a hook you'll throw, simply running at them really fast with a Flay could do a simpler, better job of engaging. Shurelya's is the most reasonable and common item here, but the same idea could apply to Dead Man's Plate, Ghost, or Yomo's hook into Rocketbelt into box, aka the advanced Ooga Booga. A max distance hook will often see you needing to walk a bit before deploying the box in order to guarantee the hit. Well, why walk when you can Hextech Rocketbelt? This covers the distance well while getting an extra hit of damage in, while still guaranteeing that box hit, with or without a Flay. If you do find yourself memeing around with Hextech Rocketbelt, this is a pretty fun, cool burst combo. Rocketbelt into auto. Sometimes you just need a dash to secure one last auto attack to finish an opponent off. Since Thresh's auto attack damage charges up over 10 seconds, that awkward chase time can often be in your favour. Making sure they can't make a slight escape by using a quick dash like Rocketbelt that even provide its own damage too, can help kill a low health foe. Or sometimes a high health foe with the right build. I love hybrid Thresh. Tiamat into E. Wave clear isn't exactly Thresh's strong suit, where using Flay often not only leaves you vulnerable to engages for quite a while, but isn't even strong enough to clear the wave in the first place. That being said, with some Flay levels and the active of Tiamat, you can clear the casters pretty quickly. Auto attack into Titanic Hydra. Auto-attacking and using Titanic Hydra's active immediately to reset your auto-attack not only is a pretty big burst for Thresh's 200% total AD charged up smack, but also gets a second hit of that soul on hit damage and stacks an instant 2 out of 3 of your press the attack. Given the item is pretty good up there by its own right, this is a pretty decent thing to use if you're ever playing Thresh top. Who would ever do that? Q into Q dash, into Stridebreaker, into R, into E. Stridebreaker on Thresh? It's a simple stat ball of an item for the deranged, also known as a Thresh top player. But its active slow gives some practical usage. Dashing in with a hook and following it up with Stridebreaker allows a long, slow chain by making it more difficult for the opponent to simply walk through and out of the box before the walls are fully corporeal, or it can be used to just keep them within reach of a flay before that dissipating Stridebreaker slow wears out. Stridebreaker into Q. The Thresh hook is a lot easier to land on an opponent that is slowed, and knowing he has 2 perfectly good slows in his kit, if you happen to have a Stridebreaker to hand, using that will not only slow the opponent to make the hook easier, but also give you the movement speed to reposition for the best hook you can make. The fast Electrocute combo, or phase rush. The trick to a fast Electrocute with Thresh is something I wanted to talk about before, but when I tested Hextech Alternator again, Riot had patched it and it no longer works. What happened was that if you attacked an enemy 3 times with Alternator, you'd activate Electrocute as normal. However, when you had a level in Flay for the passive on-hit damage, Alternator would make it count as 2 in 1 auto attack, meaning 2 autos or an auto and a Flay would trigger the rune. That no longer works as of the start of this season, which is why it's not in my Overexplain of Thresh's E, but while it doesn't work with static Shiv nor energized items, Riot did add a new item which they seem to have forgotten to fix this interaction for. So, using Scout's Slingshot with your E leveled will count as 2 hits for Electrocute, so you can quickly trigger it with Slingshot, Auto, and E, or whichever 2 hits you like. And it's worth saying as well that this also works the same way with Phase Rush. Next up, auto attack with a slow effect into Q or E. With an item like Stormrazor, rip in peace, that applies a slow on an auto attack, you can try and line up a hook or get closer for an E by restricting their movement. Classic AD Thresh builds like Stormrazor with Rapid Fire Cannon are great for this, but unless Riot brings an item like Stormrazor back, this may as well be a fairy tale. And now that we've covered all ability combos on Thresh and all item combos on Thresh, there is one more combo that truly requires absolute mastery on Thresh in order to pull off, and one that I highly recommend you start practicing as soon as you are able. What you have to do is miss your Q and then flash mastery as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. This has been every Thresh combo that comes to mind for me, but if there's a Thresh combo you like and think I've missed, be sure to comment it down below to share it with all of us, especially the stupid combos that should probably never see the light of day. I can't think of much else to over-explain with Thresh, to be honest with you, given I've already explained each of his abilities and his passive in detail, so maybe another champion entirely is next. I'd love to hear what champions you'd be interested in hearing about as well. And as usual, I'd like to give a massive shout out to these members who make these videos possible. Shout outs to the members War Squid, Ultimate Ground, Cryo's Dad, Gentleman Zeta, Lunar Eagle 1996, 53rd Alabama Booty Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mr. Noodle, Bass1378, Gilbert Morals, Tiamat E, Luxius, Dario Castro, Overseer, and Luca, Colorado Cosmico, Luna Arc, C-Posh, KOARC22, Torjiro, Senya Scrim, Zanata Wright, El Pedro Kotal, Victor Katak, AJG Beat 91, Sir Gaming Brain, Lexivix, Quasho, Boomborn, Jacob Frisbee, Gukaganza, Logan James, Young067, Briefcase Cat, Nirubi, T90, and Patricio Garita. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.